What was your first memory?
I think having Grandpa Wagner, that was my mother's dad, come over when I was 3 years old and visited with Mom, and I can remember they let the oven door down so it'd be warm, and that's what I remember.
Probably 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember going out to the outhouse in the snow.
In the spring wagon. Or, yeah, a spring wagon, that's what we had.
Was that comfortable?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it have a top over it?
No, it didn't. But some of them did, but not very many.
When did you first start wanting to know about family history?
I don't know, I always liked history, period, so I don't know. Long time ago, huh?
And when did you find out when our family moved out here?
Oh, I don't know when. Probably in the 8th grade or something like that.
How often did you guys go into town?
We didn't. We didn't go to Pittsfield.
Oh, Grandpa Wheeler did?
Well, he didn't go to Pittsfield very often either. Until he got a car, and then they did. They went into Pearl.
They went to Pearl.
There was everything in Pearl then. There was barber shops and
Sold dishes, I guess.
everything. And a poultry house.
Yes, they did have poultry house.
When they were born, this town was still a thriving little community. Right now there's about 200 people that live here in Pearl. At one time about 900 people lived here. All of them mostly employed in farming or at one of the 5 pearl button manufacturing plants. When you were a kid, Pearl was famous for...
Oh, it was a good town.
What were they famous for? Why did Pearl become a town?
I don't know.
Did it have something to do with those buttons?
Oh, hell yes, they had 5 button factories. That's what built them up. Then when the plastic came in, they just died.
About when? World War II?
Probably. Can't remember, honey.
And they
Maybe a little before World War II.
And how'd they make the buttons? What was the material they were making them from?
Well, you know what a shell is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they made them out of.
And that's how the town got its name?
I don't know, honey. Pearl's buttons, yeah. That's exactly how. That's Stubbins one, yeah.
And this is all that's left of that pearl button manufacturing activity that employed so many people in Pearl. And according to Bernice Wheeler, the minute that plastic was invented, pretty much signed the doom of the button manufacturing operation here in Pearl, and the population declined pretty quickly. Well, there's not much to this town anymore. Got a post office, a water department. Well, people that live here mostly are engaged in farming. But at one time, this was a thriving community with bars and restaurants and hotels. So do you remember the story of going back to the Wheelers and fighting in the Revolutionary War?
They did.
And
We got all that history.
yeah, we do. And there was one story in there about one of the Wheeler brothers who served in one of the units close to George Washington.
Yes, it did.
Well, Jacob, as you know, Jacob and I have been doing some research on the internet.
Oh, have you really?
Mm-hmm. And Jacob has found that there's a place in Pennsylvania called Wheeler Fort.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Which was sort of an outpost to stave off Indian and French attacks during the French and Indian Wars.
Yeah, French Indian War, yeah.
Do you know how the Wheeler family came to settle in Pike County?
Well, they settled in Greene County first, I believe. Well, they settled in Kentucky, I believe. And then they came to Greene County, and then they came over to Pike County, as well as I remember.
So when the Wheelers came here to settle,
They settled over. We haven't been by there yet, but they settled. Like you always wanted to go to the Twin Culvers, up from them.
did you ever go up to their homestead when you were a kid?
Oh, sure. We'd walk over there. I used to cut across the hills and go over to stay all night with them. They'd go to bed at 8 o'clock and not get up until 8 o'clock next morning. But I'd still go over about 2 or 3 times a month.
Now this would be your grandparents.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever recall your great grandparents on the Wheeler side?
No.
No.
I think this is where we turned to go to the Twin Culvers.
This is generally the area where William Wheeler and his family settled.
Yeah, back Strout. They call it Strout back then. Well, they still call it Strout.
How do you spell that?
Strout.
And now we're talking about 1820.
Uh-huh. They had a post office there.
I don't know if they still have any buildings or not.
I don't either.
So the Wheelers came here in the 1820s with the Wagners. Were they here before the Civil War, Grandma?
The Wagners didn't come in this area. I can't even remember the name of that place.
Martinsburg.
Huh?
They came to Martinsburg, the Wagners.
That's right.
That's,
Where's Martinsburg?
well, you leave Pittsfield and go down a different way.
But not too far from here.
No,
And then how about the Smiths? When did they come here?
I don't know.
So when you were kids, none of our relatives lived over off this road.
Yeah,
Oh, yes,
yeah,
they
Grandma and
did.
Grandpa Wheeler did. And Uncle William Wheeler, he lived out here.
So is there a homestead up here that Grandpa Wheeler lived in as a kid?
There,
Yeah,
but you can't. There isn't any house up there
but you
anymore.
can't get up there.
Did any of the Wheeler boys fight in the Civil War?
No,
No.
they weren't of the right ages.
How about World War One?
Oh yeah, a lot of them did.
Wheeler boys?
No.
No.
Oh, sure. Well, Buchanan's did.
Any Wagner boys or Casinger boys fight in World War One?
Not World War One.
Now those twin culverts were for what? For the railroad?
Yeah,
Railroads.
they still go over it.
Now these twin culverts were built about when?
Oh heavens, I don't know.
Oh God, I don't know.
Before you?
Oh yeah, a long time before us.
So do we know how this road got its name?
No, I don't.
Oh, whoever, it's named after that creek, but I don't know.
Is this the road that John Hay lived on? Lincoln Secretary?
Yes, it is. I don't know that it was this road, but in this area. This story was.
Does our family have any connections at all going back in time here to John Hay, Lincoln Secretary?
No, but he was raised right down Bee Creek. You know where that bridge was?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was right in that area. You'd go, if you went up that creek, you know that creek came down kind of like that. That's where he was raised.
Well, no, was that country store we saw yesterday his family's or something, or?
Well, in that area,
Mm-hmm.
but not his family. He worked down there, and somebody from Pittsfield, I guess he was a smart kid or something. Anyway, he put him on his horse, took him into Pittsfield, and he went to school. There's a lot of history down there, I'll tell you.
Now, did Lincoln argue cases in the Pike County?
Oh, yeah. That's where he actually, right down in that area and going up toward, oh, let's see what towns, up along the, not in the river, but in that area.
That was his circuit?
Yeah.
How is it that we're related to John Wilkes Booth?
Grandma Wheeler was a Booth. Dora Booth that was Grandpa's wife.
And how was he related to her? Talking about John Wilkes Booth to
They
Dora
were
Booth.
both Booths. I don't know how far back it goes.
But not like first cousins or...
I don't think so.
No.
Our grandmother, my dad's mother, was a Booth.
Booth.
I don't know just how, but they always said we were related. There, see the old cellar?
Yeah.
Well, they really had snowdrifts out here.
Mm-hmm.
The smokehouse and cellar is the only things left.
Now, did Grandpa and Grandma Wheeler, did they build this this area, or did they buy a house that was already built?
No, they inherited it. Grandma, Mom did.
And she was a Wagner, right?
Yeah.
But that...
But she didn't get it through the wagons, she got it through the casings.
So that explains why it was Grandpa Casinger who built this storm shelter.
He did build that cellar.
No, he built that after the Civil War, I assume.
No, he built it before he went back again into the Civil War.
Oh, so he came home after serving and then went back for a second
Yes,
tour, huh?
he did.
And do you know much about old Dan?
Dan Holler?
Yep.
Yes, I do. He was a colored man.
There was a colored man lived down there, and on Grandpa Casinger's ground, and it was down by a spring, and that's why they called it the Dan Holler. His name was Dan.
Dan, yeah, but lived down the Dan Holler. You know where the Dan Holler is?
No, I only have heard reference to it.
Well, you know where we came up the Big Creek Hill, and Dad's land lived there. Well, you just go on down, probably 3 or 4 miles, and you'd be down in the Dan Holler. I don't know how he got there, but he lived down in a little cabin down in there for a long time.
Grandpa Casinger went back to the war. This colored man stayed with his wife and family and took care of him, helped him with the farm and everything out there where those little graves are in that area, and the big house was right down. And then when he came back from the war, they built him a cabin down there, and he lived down there. Well, my mother, until he got sick. Mom and all that, they remembered that cabin, and they knew where it was down the Dan Holler.
I guess he was probably a slave that came in. I don't know that. I don't even know. Bernice may know where he was buried.
It was difficult getting colored, get them situated, but my grandfather took care of him all his life, I guess. He's buried, I guess. I think he's buried in that county courthouse cemetery.
And he served with Illinois, what was it, the 107th or something?
I don't remember, but we've been there. We've seen it on the, you've been there, haven't you, Gene?
I've not, but I think Jacob went.
I think Gene,
I think
thought
so.
Aunt Jean went.
Yeah. See the barn and the shed.
This used to be a buggy shed over there. I can remember that. But then he's got nice barns. Got one over here too.
Oh, I remember when I was a kid, the Kasinger brick house was still standing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did Grandpa Kasinger have a pretty good sized farm for his day, Grandma?
Oh my God. Yeah, just the whole prairie, huh?
And when he left, he left a wife and how many children in that house to go to war?
Oh, well, two of them died. I think there were 4 young children.
See, there's where that
Huh?
brick house used to be, where that trailer is.
Yeah, there's not even foundation left, is there?
Oh, no, it was destroyed.
And what's a little trailer right now used to be a 2-story brick home.
Yeah.
That's right.
And here the children are buried right over here see that little cemetery.
So when he was in the Civil War, he lost his 2 youngest children, right?
Yeah, but there's, there's 1, 2, 3. There's an extra grave in there. Somebody just took it up on themselves to bury their child there.
Who was unrelated to us.
No.
And his 2 children just died of natural causes like so many children did in the 1860s?
Well, I don't know what it was.
Like fever or something
Yeah.
like that. Wasn't from fire or anything
Oh,
like
no.
that.
That used to be Uncle John Kasinger's place right over there. It was a 2-story house.
That was part of Grandpa Kasingers.
So who was John
We're
K.
trying to
Singer? Was that his
This
grandson?
barn closed up.
Brother.
Brother? Now the Kasingers, did they come over? I'm gonna back up for a minute.
From Germany.
Right, but Grandpa Kasinger himself wasn't from Germany, was he?
Wasn't what?
Grandpa Kasinger himself was not from Germany. His father was, right?
No, I think he was too.
Oh, so he was born in Germany, came over here, and
I think so.
straight away fought in the Civil War.
He did fight in the Civil War.
Yeah.
I got a history of all the different places he fought. I got it on that tombstone out there in the other.
Not Miller, but
Miller.
yeah.
Miller Cemetery, yeah.
Yep. In fact, I think I have a photo of that.
Yeah.
So how do the Kasingers relate to the Wheelers?
Married the daughters.
So the Kasinger boys married more than one Wheeler daughter?
Oh, yeah, I think so, didn't they, Naomi? Well, yeah. And Allie.
They were George Smith.
Huh?
Uncle George Smith. His wife was Uncle George Smith's wife was a Kasinger.
Yeah.
But Aunt Allie wasn't. I don't know. There, take a picture of Uncle Obie's smokehouse. That's all that's left of his place.
Now,
Yes.
now, who was Uncle Obie? He had a...
Mom's brother.
So Grandma Wheeler's brother.
And be Angie's granddad.
So he'd be Obie Wagner. It's still owned by a Wagner?
Harry Eagner owns it.
So do we know when the Wagners settled in Pike County?
Yeah, they came in after the Wheelers quite a while.
I remember as a kid hearing Aunt May talk about Jesse James and his gang coming through
No,
here.
he did. They came over to where she was raised, and they made him. That gang made my grandmother or great grandmother, I don't know which, cook for him.
Breakfast?
Well, I don't know what meal, but they came in, they camped out, and they had to cook for him. Yeah.
They pay him?
Well, hell no, they were just glad when they decided to go.
I bet that was a story you kids liked to hear when you were younger.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard Mom or Dad talking about they used to go, you know, where we went through the Twin Culverts. We went on up, Grandma and Grandpa lived up there, and I think they did visit, you know, stop there to get something to eat. Well, I don't know if it's Jesse James, but I know some of the outlaws used to come there and knock and want something to eat, and they called them bums then, and they'd feed them.
And then did they pay or?
No,
Oh, they didn't pay.
no, just
Okay.
hand it.
Michelle asked me a question about the woman who moved to Denver.
Oh, that was Aunt Nellie. That was my dad's sister, Nellie. And she homesteaded out there. She homesteaded, had to live on that for, I don't know, I can't tell you how many years she had to live there.
Now, didn't she work for the railroads? Work on the rail cars or something?
Yeah, yes, honey, she did everything. Yeah, she was on the railroad.
That was Nellie Carson. That was my dad's sister, Nellie Wheeler. Well, what they call these girls that was on the trains, good time girls? I don't know. She was like a waitress on the train. And she went out west, and she homesteaded land, and that's the land we are part owners of. It's on out of Denver north. I think she's about 18 when she started working for the railroad. I think she's married a couple times, but not that I know. I never did see any husbands, but I know her name was Carson when she died.
Well, she worked on the Katy Railroad, worked her way out to Denver. She was like a waitress. And the Katy Railroad had restaurants ever so many, 100 miles, I guess. But she worked in restaurants. And then she went out there and homesteaded that ground.
She was something else.
So how old was she when she left Pearl?
Probably 16.
So if she was your dad's sister, she probably left somewhere in the 1890s?
Oh, I think so.
And what would make a young woman in the 1890s just by herself get up and take off and go west?
Well, she had a lot of guts and did it, that's all.
Did she ever get married?
Yes, she did, but I don't know how many times. But she never had children.
And every Christmas she'd send us a big box, and each one of us had something. And at Easter time she'd send us something. She married 2 times, I think. The last time was a Carson. Her name was Carson. Then she came back after my grandpa died and farmed the home place with horses. And then she bought out there where Aunt May and Uncle Frank lived. She owned that, and then she decided to go back to Denver. She was quite an Aunt Nellie. She was always good kids. She had this old Victrola, and she had all kind of records, and she had, I don't know, 2 or 3 of them, old black crows. And us kids could go over there and play them records. We'd walk from our house over to the home place just to get to listen to those records. I don't know whatever happened to that. I think Aunt May had it last.
She died in Denver. That's where she landed. That was her home, Denver. And that's where she died. She came back and took care of Grandma Wheeler for a while, but she finally went back out.
Now you mean your grandmother Wheeler?
Uh-huh. That would be her mother.
Now this farm belongs to
Denny.
Denny, and Denny is the sharecropper. That's not the right word, is it?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we'd call to tell him that.
No, but he's your, he farms your land. He's
He's a
tenant farmer.
tenant
That's the word I was
farmer,
looking
yeah.
for. Now, I guess being a sharecropper has different connotations from
Yes, it does.
your generation.
See, there used to be 2 houses right there.
And there used to be houses all the way down that road.
Oh, yeah.
That big, who's in that big house down there?
Who owned it last? Harold and Winnie.
Yes, I did, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's Uncle Frank and Aunt May's house. Mhm.
And Jice Draper used to live there where that barn is. There used to be a big house right there.
Pretty much most of this land around here is Wheeler land, isn't it?
No.
No?
Kay Singer and, I can't think of that.
Do you still know any
All
case singers?
This land used to be Grandpa Kay Singer.
Ah. Do you still know any case singers?
There isn't very many around. I don't know.
I don't think there's any left. Is there?
There's Paul Kasinger. I don't know that he ever
But
died.
he was not related.
No, but there's Glenn Kasinger.
Who?
Glenn Kasinger would have been related. He lives.
Yes, he would. But,
He lives over in Griggsville.
oh, he does, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I guess he's about the only one left, huh?
So now, Grandpa Case Singer would not have been alive when you were born, correct, grandmother?
I was dead 1 year. Or he was dead 1 year when I was born.
So, Grandma, when you were born, about 4 years later, you may remember there was the great flu epidemic.
Yes,
And
I know about the flu epidemic.
and how did that affect Pike County?
A lot of
It
people
just had
died.
everybody either dying or nearly dying.
And as I recall from reading, that flu affected mostly young and healthy people.
And we had one doctor, good Dr. Thurman, and then there was a doctor from Nebo, I can't remember that name. They took care of everybody.
Who was sick?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't get the flu, though, because you were too young and missed it, I suspect.
I noticed on television they're having an epidemic of mumps now.
Oh my God, I did have that.
I haven't had them.
Did you ever get it?
No,
Oh,
I probably will. I had whooping cough twice. I heard my mom talk about it, but that was about the time I was born, 1920, and that was 1918. My mother had it real bad, and Bernice claims that she helped cook when my mom was sick with the flu.
Seemed like they brought something up to the yard and gave it. They were quarantined, I believe. But other than that, I don't remember. Bernice knows all about that. She said she stood on a stool and cooked dinner and washed dishes, and she and Tuff.
I don't know how we didn't lose some of us, but I stayed up and so did little Tough, Kenneth. He was just a kid, but he would do whatever you told him. They realized, I'm sure at that age, what would he have been, about 2, I guess, or anyway.
Well, you'd have been 4 because it was 1918 when the flu
That's
epidemic
right.
came.
I was 4 and he was 2. Uncle Bud was in between. He was deathly sick. My mother was sick. My dad was. They were all in bed except this little boy and me. And we had to get the cattle in so the calves could suck, you know. Oh my God, that little kid. You tell him to stand in the doorway and gateway, and he would. They never let the cows go in without the calves.
And did you lose any neighbors to the flu?
Oh yeah, but I don't remember, honey. Everybody was so sick then. I don't recall. But I know Aunt Sarah Buchanan was sick, my mother was down, and my dad was really sick. Well, Uncle Bud and no, not Uncle Bud, Uncle Tuff and I were the only two on our feet. So, you know, and I remember my mother lying in bed and telling how to do biscuits and how to mix them up. We started the fires, I know. But poor Dr. Thurman, none of the doctors really worked. Now they took care of that whole community. I don't think he ever slept.
And that used to be Uncle Pete, one of Uncle Pete's farms, that barn over there.
Who was Uncle Pete?
Casinger.
Casinger, he was Grandpa Casinger's son. No, one that
Brother.
brother.
And there's your Big Creek store.
Right here to the left, right? Now, is this the store that you guys used to go to as a kid?
Oh yeah.
Walk down there and get a penny's worth of candy. Right there.
And it used to have good business.
Well,
In
yeah.
fact, it used to have the mail there too.
Did you ever used to have to go get the mail for your family and bring it back to the house there?
Not
No,
here.
they delivered the mail. We had a rural mail.
Who owned this house here?
Fisher's. I went with that Fisher boy for 4 years.
Here's Uncle Joe Gooden's. That is our uncle.
That was our Uncle Joe Gooden's house there.
And who was he related to? Or how was he related to us, rather?
mom-
It's a Wagner, honey.
His mom was a Wagner.
And then you tell me something about Grandpa Wheeler used to do the county roads.
Yeah.
Oh, we did
For years, 18 years, I think.
He used to do this road we're on.
Yeah, I guess he did. I think he came down to Bee Creek and Old Pearl and where else?
And around by Nebo out that way.
Yeah.
And I expect that when he did that, he wasn't doing that with a motorized vehicle, was he?
No.
No.
How did he do it?
They had horses.
Now, you guys went to this school.
Yep. I went 8 years there. I think B just went 1 year there. And then they built that.
Just 1 year.
Yeah.
That's all that.
And that was a long walk up home.
But that was a good schoolhouse.
Oh, yeah.
How many years you go to this? You said 8 years.
I did.
Did you walk here or did you ride a horse here?
We walked mostly.
They're starting to build houses down in here.
How many kids were in there?
All 8 grades. All 8 grades were in there.
So what, 30 kids?
Oh, at least.
Oh,
More than that. One teacher.
well, we got pictures of the old Pearl School. I don't know where they are.
I went to Bee Creek School 8 years. Then I went to Pearl High School. I lived in Pearl there at Merle Franklin's. The hardest thing was working my way through school. That was hard. Because back then they didn't have clothes dryers, you know, and I'd hang out diapers on the line before I'd go to work or go to school, and then I'd come home for lunch and I'd have to dry dishes before I went back to lunch.
Back to
And
school.
I worked.
And this is for the family you were working for.
I worked at the store and at the house, both. Yeah.
And then lived at the house for room and board, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Until you got out of high school.
Until I got out of high school.
Bee Creek and Pearl.
And how long did you go to Bee Creek?
8 years.
Yeah. And then Pearl through high school?
4 years. Walked 2.5 miles to grade school and 8 miles a day for 3 years to high school. And a half a year, Gene and I batched, and then a half a year I worked for Alpha and Merle Franklin. But the other 3 years I walked.
So what was the first school you went to?
Bee Creek, but it was a different, not that school that's there now. There was a wooden school there. I only went there 1 year. I don't know if I even went 1 year.
And why'd you move in with Uncle Frank?
Because I was sick so much, and he just decided to take me home with him, and he doctored me.
And you stayed right there through high school?
Oh, sure.
Mhm.
Gosh, and Hazel always said I was her sister, but it was. Anyhow, she and I were like sisters, but and little Donnie, I loved him.
And when did you move out of their house?
Oh, I don't know, honey. I can't remember.
Did you move out of their house to get married to Grandpa?
Yeah.
Of course, I don't ever remember being there. I could remember coming home once in a while. She had ear trouble, and she had what they call, I don't know what they call it, where her ears would break and run. And Uncle Frank was a druggist, and he wanted to take her up and doctor her that winter, and she was much better. And they didn't have children, so they wanted her to stay, and she did, and she just never did come back home. Yes, and she went to college 1 year, I think, when she and Uncle Ed got married. Out of Ottawa, someplace, junior college, I guess.
When she was 10 years old, she went up to stay with Aunt May and Uncle Frank because she was sick a lot. I was only 1 year old when she left. And it was we had such bad winters and things at that time. And Aunt May and Uncle Frank said they was gonna take another little girl in. They already had Hazel. And they talked Mom and Dad into letting her go up there so she would be easier for her. And Mom said that was the hardest thing she had to do, was give up that little girl. Because you only got to see her once, maybe twice a year.
All the way through?
All the way, from the time she left
Till when?
well, after she got married, they'd see her more often.
Somebody moved it, and they used it for a barn that used to sit right down here in this grove of trees.
What kind of church?
Church of Christ. See it sitting right over there. Cattywampus over there.
But it used to sit right here.
Right in there in the grove of trees, yeah.
It was pretty.
So did you guys go to that church?
No, actually, it went out to Old Pearl.
What denomination?
It was Church of Christ.
And when did Grandpa and Grandma Wheeler move up on this road?
When Bernice, right after Bernice was born, you were born over at Grandma and Grandpa's, and then they moved over here.
So you were born in the house, not in a hospital.
Oh, they didn't have hospitals around here then, honey.
So I expect for you too, Aunt Jean, you were also born in a house, not in the hospital.
Yeah, all of us were.
No. The rest of them were all born at home.
Uh-huh.
And Mom baked cherry pie for the doctor. And he ate cherry pie while he's there.
For your birth?
Yeah.
And was the first hospital,
In Pittsfield.
yeah.
Well, I can tell you when it was built, Dick and Patty were just toddlers, and we went down. Wasn't even dedication, just kept showing that it was a big crowd there. That was a blessing for Pittsfield, that hospital.
It was mostly uphill going home. Wasn't bad coming down.
What about a 2-mile walk?
Oh, it's more than 2 miles, about 2.5 miles.
I expect the grandpa kept this road in good shape too.
Yeah. Kept all the roads good.
Was that an elected position?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was really one of the fortunate ones when it was so bad, no work or anything. He always had work.
So you're talking about the Depression or the farm crisis of the 20s?
Depression.
The Depression. Do you remember whether Pike County was affected by the farm crisis in the 1920s?
Oh, of course. You mean that we didn't have any crops?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we did, it wasn't worth it. Of course I do. You'd be surprised what kids remember. But we never went hungry. And we never did without clothes. But some poor people sure did, huh?
Did any of your neighbors lose their land during that time?
Oh, lots of them. I was always sorry I didn't go, and I could have gotten the money to get my mother's place, but I was always afraid to overextend myself and then I'd lose everything.
You think that those Depression years had a lasting impact on how you've lived your life from that point forward?
I would assume so. Well, we never had a dime given to us. And we always said that the ones that went on relief stayed on relief.
Vale my husband is the one that puts electricity in Grandma and Grandpa's house.
Do you remember when that was?
1942,
Wow.
the year we were married.
And prior to that,
Lamps.
what was it like walking out to the outdoor John?
Well, for a long time we didn't even have an outdoor John. We went to the chicken house. Maybe you shouldn't put that down. It was just way of life and you didn't think anything about it.
Well, we didn't know any different then, but looking back, it was terrible. Oh, yes, we had to bring in chips, corn cobs, and wood, because we burnt wood.
What kind of chips?
When they split the wood, there was chips off of the wood.
Oh, I was thinking cow chips.
No, thanks.
What would you say the hardest thing was about growing up in Pike County?
Walking 8 miles to school. But I graduated top of the class as valedictorian.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, we always had plenty to eat and plenty to wear. I would always wish my mom hadn't had such a hard life, but she did. But you never heard her complain. The only thing I miss is my son.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm very happy.
And Roger passed away in
92. He was never too busy to help. I have a friend here in town. I took her to Chicago with me. And she talks a mile a minute. And he was trying to do work. He brought home from work. And she was talking to him, so he just put his work up. And he just sat there and talked to her for an hour. And I thought, Lenore, shut up so he can do his work. But he never hurried her at all. He was just that type of person. Never too busy to help somebody. He was manager of Marshall Fields for 16 years. And then when he died, he was manager of Neiman Marcus.
So do you long at all for things as they were, or do you think things are basically better off today?
Well, I'd say he's better off. In some ways, we didn't have drugs and things, that they have now. But, I'd hate to go back drinking cistern water and going to outside John.
I think times get better every time. In time. In time. No. I never sit and worry about what has happened, what's the use. Not much.